I know the best list was supposed to be the next video after my worst list, but I decided to bump it back a little bit because something came up. So about a week ago on Twitter, there was an argument surrounding separating the artist from the art itself. This was sparked because someone put something high on some best list and people were salty or whatever. Now, the main consensus I read was that it's stupid to separate the two. Now, as I said in my worst of 2017 video, spoilers by the way, I will normally separate the two in my criticism since it would be unfair to blame a song's quality on something shitty the artist did. Now, when talking about Kodak Black's Tunnel Vision, it's sort of important to address the rape charges since it is relevant to the lyrics. But the fracturedness and flat arrogance of XXXTonsilitis' hits shouldn't have his physical abuse towards a pregnant girl be relevant in this conversation. But sometimes an artist's personal and sometimes legally involved life is pretty relevant to a song's success. Again, take Tunnel Vision and Look at Me into account. Neither song would have been big if it wasn't for the accusations against the artists. Another example is The Race, which was a song created by rapper Tay-K. Before the song's creation, he was involved in the murder of a 21-year-old called Ethan Walker. Now, Tay-K wasn't directly responsible for pulling the trigger, but he was placed under house arrest until hearings could take place since he was involved in said murder. However, before any sort of trial could happen, Tay-K broke his ankle monitor and fled the state, even going as far as to taunt the police on Twitter about escaping because of course he did. So you may be wondering at this point, Prep, if this guy's a rapper, why wasn't him being on the run a bigger story? Well, that's because the rapping thing enters this story now. During his escape from Texas to New Jersey, he recorded a record in an attempt to get public buzz around his name. This was in order to grow a fan base and try to get away with his crime by becoming famous. Now, obviously this is disgusting, but what's more disgusting is that it almost worked. Not only did this peak at 44, but it clung to the lower half of the charts for a couple months, and as of recording this, it's still there. Thankfully, this tampon wasn't able to get that high on the charts, and he's seemingly going to get charged for an unrelated murder at a Chick-fil-A of all places. And he also has been behind bars for a while. But why am I bringing all this up? I mean, rappers have done crimes and such in the past as a form of promotion. Why is it some big deal now? Well, it's mainly because A, it is seemingly happening more and more as of recent, and B, the crimes are getting far worse. In fact, I'd go as far to say the recent crop of new rappers from the past year or two have been 25 to 75 in terms of if they're a horrible person or not. I mean, rappers were getting court dates over shooting each other, being in gangs, doing drugs, etc. But the recent court cases have been Kodak Black against sexual assault allegations. XXXTentacion has been accused of beating up a pregnant woman and is currently facing decades in prison. And that random guy who was involved in a murder and tried deflecting it by becoming a rapper. All of that is far worse than what was happening in the rap scene about a decade ago. Seriously, have all standards just gone out the window or something? Not only does the music suck, but the people are even worse. I could see some form of misunderstanding if this shitty person made a good song, but that's yet to happen so far. I mean, how far are we willing to go here? Well, from here enters Tekashi 6ix9ine, better known as 6ix9ine. Can we address how rapper names are getting worse? I mean, yeah, Lil Pump and XXXTentacion are stupid-ass names, but 6ix9ine? Really? I mean, yeah, spelling out 6ix9ine like that is somewhat clever, like how Eminem is spelt and how it's also a play on Marshall Mathers' initials. But this dude just named himself after a numbered sex position because it represents his lifestyle, and no, that is not a joke. Now, Tekashi 6ix9ine is a member of #Scum Gang, with scum standing for Society Can't Understand Me. Oh, come on. Anyways, looking at this guy's upbringing, you'd be inclined to believe he isn't that bad of a guy. When he was younger, he would walk in an AIDS walk in New York to support his friends with the diseases, as well as tattooing HIV to his back. His dad died when he was 13, and Tekashi ended up getting a job in order to help his mother out. However, a lot of that gets thrown out the window when you fast forward to him getting arrested for not only selling heroin outside of a store, but then beating up the owner of said store. And then in March of 2015, rapper Zilla Kami posted 6ix9ine, legally known as Daniel Hernandez's criminal record on Instagram, which claimed that he pled guilty to New York's Penal Law 263.05. Use of a child in a sexual performance. On top of that, he showed a picture of Daniel grabbing the breast of a female that he claimed to be 13, which certainly doesn't help 6ix9ine's side at all. Now, of course, he denies the claims, saying that he didn't have sex with the girl, but that he was just in a video where they were in the same room, and that's why he pled guilty. Now, we could go back and forth a bit here, but let's look at what got us here. On November 15th of 2017, Genius confirmed that 6ix9ine pled guilty on those charges, and guess what followed this? Was he publicly shunned for the accusations? I mean, clearly he had to have been. Look at what happened with Harvey Weinstein, Matt Lauer, Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K., Al Franken, and so on. We couldn't have let him debut at 58 in the charts just to immediately leap into the top 25. Oh, wait a minute!
Niggas envy, Blicky got the stiffy,
I can't believe we let this get up to 13 as of now. And I do mean we. This song got here for one reason and one reason alone. The free streaming services. You see, the Hot 100 formula has been a bit broken in recent times. Sales mean next to nothing now, and you can have good synergy in both sales and radio, and you won't do as well as if that synergy was in streaming. A bigger example of this has been in the recent battle for #1 between Havana by Camila Cabello and Rockstar by Post Malone. Havana has had better sales, radio, and YouTube for weeks, but Rockstar has had a disgusting margins lead in streaming. It's held over Havana because of that. This infuriates me so much, and I even love Rockstar. Never mind the fact that Jake Paul was able to chart 2 songs on the Hot 100 because of YouTube's power, and even Daniel Bergoli, the Cash Me Outside girl, has charted tracks on the Hot 100. Now, I won't give her too much shit, mainly because she follows me on Twitter, but the formula is still broken, okay? Now, in an attempt to combat this, Billboard recently announced that they will be tweaking the streaming weight in the formula. There will be a greater emphasis on the paid services like Apple Music and Amazon Music, as well as the paid/ad service like Spotify and SoundCloud, as opposed to the pure ad services of YouTube and the formula of streaming. Now, these changes will also have effect on the Billboard 200, but I don't talk about albums, so forget about that for right now. What's notable is that the article talks about adjusting streaming within itself, not the whole formula that includes airplay and sales. So who's to say this won't keep going? Yeah, YouTube's getting nerfed, but to my knowledge, SoundCloud is where Gummo has most of its strength, and that's going to seemingly go up. Now, yeah, it's only strong on SoundCloud and YouTube right now, and nerfing one significantly and the other to a way lesser extent will help knock it down a bit, but is that going to do much good? Even if it's still under the top 180 on iTunes, Gummo is ever still gradually garnering sales, and Spotify's cruddy, but it'll start picking up sooner than later if the YouTube and SoundCloud don't die off. But what happens if this sticks around? Yeah, we're letting an accused pedophile have a hit song, so what? We also let an accused pedophile get really damn close to the Senate. This is nothing. Okay, well, I don't talk about politics because it always ends up getting juvenile, and I don't even care that much. There's a controversy, that's how we got here. I've spent this whole time going on and on about that, so what about the song's quality itself? Well, let's start with the thing that further fuels the 6ix9ine drama train. Now, if you didn't pick up on his last name, Tekashi is Latino, and there's a whole debate around whether it's okay or not for Latinos to say the N-word, but I'm a white teenager, so I have literally zero reason to add to this conversation one way or another. But that also makes this hard because he says this word 25 times in the duration of this song. But moving away from that, this song is titled after a Harmony Korine film that made a 1/10 of its budget in the box office and is apparently disgusting and hard to sit through. Well, points for that since the title applies. This glassy synth and trap beat is eerie as is, and that's not a good thing here. But once you pair it with 6ix9ine screaming to death, it becomes really hard to sit through. And that's not me saying yelling is bad in music. Hell, Numb by Linkin Park is one of my favorite songs of all time. My problem just comes down with the content itself. In Numb, Chester Bennington yells because he's smothered by this person and he just wants to be himself and not them. 6ix9ine's content, however, is just the standard shit in hip-hop. Money, killing people, and of course having sex with your girlfriend. None of that has any reason to be yelled. It just makes this more unsettling than it has to be. I know in the past I mentioned how I wanted rappers to bring more intensity and act like they're trying, but if this is the result, then fine. I'll take it back. Even if something like Bank Account is really hard to sit through due to how utterly dull and lifeless it is, Gummo just makes me sick to my stomach. This whole song is just gross, and quite frankly, 6ix9ine is a horrible person, so it doesn't help. But I'm beating him up over the pedophilia stuff too much, aren't I? I mean, we can talk about how he says gays run the music industry, or maybe we could talk about how Gummo's beat was literally stolen from someone. But no, let's continue to focus on the child sex thing, especially since stuff came out after I finished writing the initial script. And something to make note on is that these details contradict public comments made by Tekashi. Now, according to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Hernandez did in fact plead guilty to the use of a child in a sexual performance in 2015. This contradicts Hernandez saying the charges happened 3 to 4 years ago. Now, there's more information on this case, and I plan on linking the sites I used in the description, so if you want more information on the article, they are there. But something rather important to note, Tekashi originally claimed that he didn't know the accused's exact age and that she was maybe around 14, but he went on to say that she told him that she was 19, which whatever way you look at it, that's bullshit. No 13-year-old looks and acts like a 19-year-old. Younger girls admittedly do a good job of looking older older than they are with makeup and such, but it should still be really easy to separate a 13-year-old with a 19-year-old. He also tries claiming that he was 17 at the time, calling himself a baby, a child, and you have to see how bullshit his claims are at this point. So that's where we stand. We have a child molester with 2 songs on the Hot 100, one of them being at 13. Where do we go from here? Yeah, streaming nerf is something, but again, it's not like streaming as a whole is taking a hit here, it's just being adjusted. And with the Havana v Rockstar topic earlier, streaming might be the main monopoly, and there is a problem in that. Havana was undoubtedly the biggest song in the country during multiple weeks, but because of that streaming lead, Rockstar held on. I know I'm not the only person who believes this is ridiculous, but the problem is we're stuck with it. As much as it hurts to say, Gummo by 6ix9ine is very likely making the 2018 year on Hot 100. And unless the streaming adjustment is crazy, I don't see this kind of thing ending soon. And that sucks. Hopefully Billboard realizes what's happening here in both of these cases and gives streaming as a whole a decent kick in the nuts. And I'll say it now since it's eligible, expect to see this in the top 3 of my worst list for 2018 if it doesn't top the damn list altogether. And if there's any plea I can make to the general public, you should have higher standards than this. I hope 6ix9ine, Kodak Black, and XXXtraordinary are put behind bars, and I hope TK stays behind them. Sorry for the delay. The best list will be out next. It is written, by the way, but these things take forever to edit. But trust me, you'll get it before this year ends. Hopefully.
Good night, everybody!
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to see a video just like this, there's a link in the end card. And if you would like to see a series currently going on Let's Talk Gaming, there's a playlist for that right there. I'm also very, very active on Twitter, so if you could go over there and give me a follow, I would honestly really, really appreciate it. I'm usually talking about music stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.